Way back in episode 24, we talk about the magic of knots and cables. And Jim, since then, it has become one of our most listened to episodes.
Really?
Yes, even 100 episodes later.
Wow.
Which is why today we're returning to this topic to explore the magic of enchanted cables.
I wish my computer cables were enchanted.
Oh, yeah. See, all sorts of cables we could uncover. Light from Lantern presents Knit a Spell. I'm magical maker, Katie Rempe.
And I'm the maker of magic, James Devine.
Join us as we stitch together the symbiotic relationship between crafting
And the craft.
Jim. We've talked about cables before. What types of things come to mind first when you think of a cable?
Because I'm not centered on knitting myself, I think of cables as twisted metal cord that holds up my paintings, or the power cables, like I mentioned and laughed about in the intro, that are always tangled. But of course, because we did do episode 24, that was so fascinating to talk about the fisherman's knit sweater and how they function both as identification for the person, but also were super warm. If you haven't listened to it, it's a great episode to go back and listen to.
And one that we, of course, will link in the show notes to make it nice and easy to find. But for all of those who have yet to tune in to that very good episode, I'm going to give you a little overview of what exactly cables are and a brief history on them as well.
That's good because I could use a refresher myself.
So, first of all, I love cables and teaching cables to students because it's one of those techniques that a lot of newbies are scared of because it looks intimidating. But until you know that it's just done by knitting the stitches out of order, you think, oh, what am I going to have to do in order to make this happen? Especially when you see that some cables require a tiny little short double-pointed needle, which is a cable needle to hold stitches. So it becomes this whole process. But the transformation is actually pretty easy. And so cable knitting is a style of knitting in which textures are crossed in layers, and that is what achieves the permuting stitches, so the ones that stick up above the rest of the work. So for example, if we were given 4 stitches and we wanted to create a cable from them, we would say they were stitches A, B, C, and D. And instead of knitting them in that exact order, we're going to actually cross the first 2 over the second 2 so that we're actually knitting C, D, A, B, which I know might sound confusing if you're just listening to the podcast, which is why you should maybe check us out on YouTube for this one. It's a great visual aid.
Even if you're watching on YouTube and you're watching my face, I'm like, what?
What? And that's part of why it seems like it's difficult until you do it. And then you're like, oh, it's just knitting.
Oh,
So
it's
you're
just
still
that?
just
Oh,
knitting the stitches in a bit of a different order. Some do require a little bit of an extra help, which is the cable needle. And that's only because if there's a lot of stitches that we're doing crosses over, if it's a really big cable, it can be a little bit cumbersome to cross those stitches over without a little bit of extra help like the cable needle to hold them. But there's a secret cheat. If they're small cables, and that's my favorite type of cable to do, you can actually learn a technique to knit them into a cable without a cable needle.
okay. When's that class, Katie?
Oh, you can see millions of tutorials right here on YouTube if that's what you're watching, or like millions of blogs too. It is not an original idea, not something I made up, but it is super helpful technique to learn how to twist the stitches and then just put them right back on the working needle instead of getting another tool involved.
Yeah, another thing for your notions bag.
Another thing to lose
Yet,
between the couch.
do you have any information on like the earliest form of cables? How were they used or anything about that?
Yes, so cable knit sweaters, as we know them today, were originally crafted for, as we said, the seafaring.
Right.
So around the 1900s on the Irish Isle of Arran, which is why they're also known as Arran knit sweaters, fishermen knit sweaters, women started knitting these sweaters, which kept the fishermen warm at sea, which was their primary purpose. But it was also to put this all over patterning on the sweaters, which was to make the garment thicker and warmer, but like you said, also to identify. So the local community adopted the tradition of knitting Guernsey jumpers from the British and Scottish fishermen and made some improvements. Traditionally knit from undertreated yarn, the air knit sweaters are water repellent, hence protected from both the rain and the turbulent water in the Atlantic Ocean.
That's cool. Is that because they leave, like, untreated means it leaves the lanolin in the,
Right.
so they're stinky
It's
and
oily.
it's
Yeah.
oily, stinky, warm, and itchy.
Yeah. Rustic is how
Perfect.
I like to call
Perfect
it.
for the boat.
Yes, nothing keeps you warmer than your skin getting abrased by all of those fibers while you're pulling in the lines and whatnot, right?
Pulling in the nets, yeah.
Modern day, they started gaining popularity, and around the 1950s is when it came to a more global market and commodified, of course, as we know it today. Thanks to the Cable Knit article that was published in Vogue in 1958, the characteristic patterns of the Arran sweater reached America. Woohoo! And that's when it became fashion across many economic and social groups.
Yeah, it's interesting that today I tried to find a cable knit sweater to wear for this episode. I was not successful in my closet. And we talked about how the cable in 2024 is not necessarily
In
modern.
Vogue.
No offense to anyone who loves their cable knit item, but you can find it more, I think, in hats or in scarves these days and less in actual garments, at least not in my closet. A lot of the sweaters have color work. I have one with a really cool Fair Isle pattern, but it isn't cabled. And I was thinking about that. I guess they are a little bit bulky and yet to come back into style in the mainstream.
And certainly there are some Arran knit sweaters out there, modern twist and machine made. They just lack, for me, any sort of character. It's usually not very fashionable, which is funny because on one side, it's classic and timeless. But when it's made in certain ways, it just looks cheap and cheesy, like the ones that you might get at a big box store or something like that. They just don't have the style or the enticement for me as like
Yeah.
a real handmade one, which I would be more
Apt to wear,
interested.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Than something that I'm just going to get mass produced
For
from a
sure.
store that just
Uh,
doesn't even have an interesting cable pattern and looks frumpy.
But aren't you totally into that acrylic yarn they use? Come
Oh
on.
my gosh. I once received a magazine that had the nerve to brand this quote fiber as Cashmiracle. Cashmiracle. Feels like cashmere. It's a miracle you can wash it like acrylic, because it is.
That's so wrong. The only thing good about Cashmiracle is the marketing.
And it was exactly those frumpy styles of, oh no,
Yeah,
no,
it's
this
so
isn't
funny.
happy.
Hey, we need something for comedy. Come on.
That's true. I
Yeah.
did stick it up on my wall for a long time because it made me laugh so hard. Cashmiracle. Okay, don't do
Yeah.
this.
Don't do that. When designing yarn, don't do that. I've seen, what is it called, ribbing around the sleeve of my sweater and around my collar and around the bottom of my sweater to keep it a little tighter. Is that what we're talking about? Is that cabling or is that something else?
It's not cabling, but it could be used to lead into a cable. Oftentimes, because a rib has knits and purls, you can use those knit stitches that then lead into a knit with purl background cable design or something like that. But ribbing itself is more of a elastic tool than cables, which are more of a decorative slash bulking
A
tool.
distant cousin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a related cousin, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
where do we see cabling in stuff we have now? I mentioned hats.
Yep. It is, in my experience, much more prevalent in, like you said, accessories. So on Ravelry, I remember when it was the up and coming thing. And even now, some of the most popular patterns back when it launched are still very popular and included cables. If anybody remembers Twilight, in the first movie, Bella wears a pair of gloves that are horseshoe cable down the middle. And some genius knitter was like, oh, I can design that, and made a free pattern that was like that. And they're Bella's gloves. And you can get the free pattern on Ravelry. And there's like a zillion people that have made it. And they're very cute, I must say. I made a pair too. And they were my go-to winter gloves for a long time.
That's cute. I think I've seen a scarf with cabling on it.
I have a nice cowl here that also, if anyone is watching, is a great example of being very mindful of your dye lots.
What did I call that earlier? I think I called that unintentional color work.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
big section of unintentional color work in this lovely little cowl with fringe and cables.
It's a really cute piece. I love it.
I've also seen cables used instead of being all over your sweater, just being around the yoke of your sweater. So there's a sweater pattern called owls, which again, very popular since the launch of Ravelry, and very cute way to use cables in a more modern way. You can also use them for edgings, very popular for shawls to have a line of cabling before you do maybe like a little lace edging. Blankets, just an extended version of a scarf.
Oh, I have cabled knit bedspread on my bed right now.
There you go. And then, like you said, hats, even socks. I have some socks that have cables in them, my grounding socks.
What I'm really interested in
Yes.
is how can we use them magically? What is the
Oh.
magical association of cables?
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about just that. Hey there, fellow knitters. Are you ready to enchant your stitches with the power of color? Discover how in my online workshop, Knit with Color Magic. In Knit with Color Magic, you'll learn how to use color as an intention-setting tool. This self-paced workshop will teach you everything you need to know to get out of your color ruts and conjure bewitching combinations while adding intention. You'll also learn how to build a strong and simple intention, how to translate intention into colors, and to develop a personal grimoire of color correspondences. With a simple shift in your mindset and some personal reflection, you can start knitting color magic into any project. And for a limited time, listeners of the show can save $20 off this workshop by using the code COLOR20 at checkout. Find all the information in the description or visit lightfromlantern.com/knit-with-color-magic to learn more. Merry make!
Your hands are the map to achieving anything you want in life. But it's hard to read that map in just one reading. My coaching packages allow me to work with you over time to build towards your goals. We bring in life coaching, executive coaching, leadership coaching, tarot, palmistry, astrology all together. And these amazing coaching pathways that my clients are on really help propel people towards their goals.
Learn more about Jim's new coaching packages by sending him an email at jim@thedivinehand.com to schedule a free discovery call, or visit thedivinehand.com to learn more.
Welcome back, everyone. As Jim suggested right before our break, we're going to break down some popular cables and suggest some magical correspondences to them.
Yay!
So let's start with just the basic braid type of cable, because that is the one that most people learn how to do first, and probably what comes to mind for most people when they think of a cable is this basic braid.
Yeah, when I look at a picture of a braid cable, especially this basic braid, it's really cool. I think of a braid as three cords or three locks of hair that are twisted and then twisted the other side, so there are three of them are braided together. And of course, it reminds me of a serpent, personally. Serpents are associated with fertility, renewal, and healing, also transformation, because of the way that they shed their skin. There's this idea that they renew themselves. But snakes, serpents are also thought of as protection because they can guard a place and only let certain people through. Medusa had protective snakes as hair, things like that. But there's another way that protection is used with braids, and it's in protective hairstyles, which is a term that's often associated with people with very tightly curled hair, and that they will have traditional hairstyles, such as in braids or in different styles that protect the hair from the elements and from the wind and from everything else. And people with straight hair can also braid their hair. And so that's seen as a symbol of protection and it has for a
Mm.
long time.
It's funny that you said the snake, right? Because we have done an episode on serpents and the Ouroboros, and that's also what it makes me think of because you never really see where it begins or ends. So I also see this as it's the basic braid, but maybe it's the classic slash timeless braid. If the beginning and the end is the same, then there is no time. And so if you want to work with quote time, this could also be a good braid to use to pull things towards you.
Fantastic, because it's also looks a lot like the lemniscate or the infinity symbol.
Oh,
Like it's
yeah.
repeated sort of infinity symbols on and on. So that goes right along with what you're talking about. What powerful symbolism.
Maybe these were how these were designed initially, and we're just like rediscovering these magical uses. The next one that I'm excited to show you is the honeycomb cable. It is one that I have also done in one of the hardest patterns I ever accidentally designed. I designed it intentionally, but I didn't design it to be the hardest one that I ever made. And that is my climbing vines cowl, named because there is a section of climbing vines on one portion, but the rest is this honeycomb cable, looks like lattice work. And that was the good one to use without the cable needle because it took a long time to make these beautiful honeycombs.
Yeah, it can look a lot like lattice. It reminds me of a bee's honeycomb. And what are bees associated with? This was the
Ooh.
source of sweetness. It was
Mm.
also the source of stings.
Good point. It does sting to do this over and over again if you have to. That's
Right.
funny. But what does it bring? An abundance of beautiful stitches when you're done.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
fertility, abundance, wealth, and honey and honeycomb and bees is sacred to so many goddesses, mostly
Mm.
goddesses. So many deities are associated with the bee and associated with honey. And that's a powerful symbol throughout humanity's
Mm.
existence. And certainly today, what the saying is no bees, no food. What a very cool pattern to bring in so much magic.
It'd be a great fabric to lay out in a natural altar, especially if you made it out of a natural fiber, as like an honor of the bees, since we are in the spring season after all.
Yeah, totally.
Next up, we have the horseshoe cable, or how I accidentally put it in the show notes, the horseshoe cable, which is not exactly the same, but similar. What's that, a horse show? Horseshoes.
That I'm like, horse show. Is it a prancing horse followed by a rearing horse followed by a
Oh,
horse jumping through a hoop?
that's it. Yes.
It's
Unfortunately, we're looking at the horseshoe cable, which is a lot
yes.
less exciting.
Well, the horseshoe cable is really beautiful. And I know it's called a horseshoe, but if you look at the horseshoe, it has a little extension that goes down
Mm.
like
Wishbone.
a wishbone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
wishbone is then interlocking with another wishbone. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't help but point out the fertility symbolism here with this
Hmm.
interlocking type of pattern. But if I
Yeah.
just think about the horseshoe, not horseshoe, I think about how we use horseshoes for luck.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
And
it could also be associated with horses, right?
totally. Yeah. Or if you want to get something done, you want to do some physical labor, I feel like that would also be a good thing to have around as inspiration. Where do you stand on the horseshoe up versus horseshoe down?
Horseshoe up.
Ah, okay. You want to
You ha-
cup all the
you
things.
have to, yeah,
You
you
don't
have
want
to
it to be
capture
pouring down to you.
capture your luck so it
Okay.
doesn't fall out. Yeah.
Oh, all
Of
right. I
course,
like it.
a lot of the symbolism of horses is around power, strength, and freedom. And if you just imagine freedom and the freedom of a wild horse and its mane blowing in the wind as it can just
Mm,
run forever. I mean,
yeah.
there's
Or the freedom that the horse offers to humans. It's a lot easier to get around on a horse than just hoofing it by yourself.
your shoes and a horse's shoes. You'll go farther on a horse.
That's right. The next one is the XO cable, and it looks just like it sounds. It looks like an X and an O. Hugs and kisses. Great for little kids' garments, stuffed animal sweaters and stuff that you're going to
Oh,
give out. I just think it's a very sweet motif.
that is too cute. Love,
Hmm.
adoration. I want a blanket of X's and O's I can wrap myself up in.
There you go. Yeah. Or if you just did it like around the sleeves and that's how you're hugging everyone is
Oh,
loving intention. That could be fun too. Yeah.
I'll take it in pink, please.
Okay, very good. Man, okay, so it's a pink baby surprise jacket that you want with a single cable motif at the chest and then an X and O's
You
around the
got it.
sleeves. Okay, all right, I'm making notes.
What's another pattern we could talk about?
Very similar to the X and O. This one is the Celtic Cable Heart, a twisting heart design that leads into yet another twisting heart design.
I'm familiar with the Celtic heart symbolism.
Mm.
It's often intertwining two hearts together, or it's a heart with a twist in the center, or there's this idea of the Celtic knot and the heart brought together. And there's a few different versions of doing that. Most of them are the symbolism of two hearts entwined. And so this idea of two interlocked hearts symbolizes the everlasting love between people. And often it's two people. We're modern, we're advanced here. If you want to do 3 or 7, that's fine.
You do you.
You do you. We do us. So I just think about the basics of that Celtic heart. But I think this is just a really great way to do a heart in general.
Oh, yeah. For me, I'm always thinking, oh, literal heart. Heart chakra, great thing to make in green, and another one to have right at your heart.
Yeah, to just do one single little cable as a motif would be cute, or around the collar. That would be so cool.
Oh, yeah, do a yoke of it. That would be cute.
But this is where I think that you said green, and we did a whole season of color magic. Just to reference some of that, green is your heart chakra, but it's also healing and growth. If you use pink, it could be like for a sweeter version of love.
That's
if you do red or a reddish color, it could be more of a passionate type of love.
And if you do black, it reflects how I feel in my heart. Oh, what?
Katie.
What? Oh.
Your attempt at a maniacal laugh.
Yeah, it's more comical than maniacal as usual. Yes. Pancakes is trying to scratch the door down.
Speaking of animals.
Oh, goodness. Oh, look at this wild woman.
You might have noticed a quick little edit there because
That's
now we
right.
have guest starring the
Pancakes.
cute puppy Pancakes, the forever puppy Pancakes.
That's right. She needed a little cameo.
She's so cute. And since we're talking about animals,
our last cable to talk about is cables shaped like animals, which I have 2 of my favorites. One of which is a cable shaped like an owl. The other is a cable shaped like a bunny. And they are just so cute. I love any creative way to make a cable into an animal or a being.
If you're listening, you need to check out the YouTube where I'm sure we'll put little pictures, or go to the link.
Oh, yeah.
That shows that owl and that bunny cable. They are so freaking cute. These animal cables will simulate the energy of that animal. So if you're going to knit the owl cable, and again, this is a really great pattern, what to go around the cowl to feature, which is how the pattern we've seen on Ravelry does it.
Right.
Owls can represent ancient wisdom, knowledge, change, transformation, intuitive development, or trusting in mystery. Owls are also about wisdom, and this is associated with the goddess Athena in ancient Greece, and she was the strategist, the one who would avoid war, rather than Ares, who would get into situations where he was in war. So this is a really great, super thoughtful idea of the logic and intelligence.
That's fun. Ooh, especially if you were a patron of Athena, what a nice little altar cloth you could make.
Yeah, it would be really great on a scarf or a cowl as a way to carry some of that Athena energy. I think that would be really cool to design. And of course, there is the bunny.
Yes, our little spring bunnies.
Bunnies and rabbits are tied to vitality, rebirth, and even resurrection. But this fertility idea of bunnies is there, and the way they frolic and are so cute. So there's all kinds of magic around the rabbit and the hare. So knitting the rabbits on something would be really cool to do.
I also like using rabbits for anything you want done quick. If you want the spell to happen fast, or you want the project to go quickly, maybe include some energy of the rabbits and get that hopping along.
Yeah. Also the energy of, you don't have to take it too seriously or be too attached to your result. You can have some frolic and some fun with it. Like a bunny.
Like a bunny. He's just nibbling away, enjoying his day.
Their little antics as they chase each other and hop around are so fun.
Dogs chase after him every morning. It's a fun game they play. They antagonize each other. They always show up to do it the next day. They love it.
I'm sure there's more cables than just this.
Oh, yes. This is, as always, just the tip of the iceberg. There are like a zillion cables, and I'm sure more being created and discovered all the time. So choose your own personal correspondences based on what works for you, or adapt ours if you like it. And if we missed something obvious or not obvious, you know what to do. Leave us a comment on our YouTube video or send us an email at knitaspellpodcast@gmail.com, or you can even pop over to our Patreon. Support us over there. It's just $5 a month. We have all sorts of fun behind the scenes stuff, and we would just like to see you hanging out there with us.
I'm looking forward to next week.
Oh, why, Jim?
Bewitching baubles.
Ooh, yes. I can't wait.
I'm not even sure what a bauble is, but I can't wait to find out next Wednesday.
Yes, you will. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Thanks for
listening.
If you enjoyed the show, consider sharing it with a friend, leaving a review on iTunes and Spotify, or following Knit a Spell on Instagram.
You can also subscribe to the Light from Lantern YouTube channel to enjoy full episodes of Knit a Spell and see our happy faces.
You can also learn more about readings, classes, and events going on with your favorite maker of magic, James Devine, by visiting thedivinehand.com and subscribing to his newsletter. Then follow Jim's fun and interactive Instagram account at DivineHandJim.
Keep up with Katie, the magical maker, by subscribing to her newsletter at lightfromlantern.com. You'll receive a free knitting pattern as a thank you gift. Then follow Katie on Instagram at lightfromlantern for even more magical making tips. See you next week.